Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Potcotter, and you're listening to CallTalk for May 13th, 2020. Today's topic is how artificial intelligence is transforming contact centers and saving you money. If you're listening live, we invite you to be part of the show and ask questions. Here's how you do it. Email me at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com. I want to remind everyone that all of our shows are archived and available to listen to at benchmarkportal.com any time of the day. And now I would like to introduce the host of the show, Bruce Belfiore.
Thank you, Alan, and welcome back to Call Talk, everyone. Now, does your contact center struggle with scaling call capacity in this time of COVID-19? With latency way up and completed calls dropping, could you tap into artificial intelligence to make your calls smarter and cheaper? Well, we're finding that there's a lot of confusion about artificial intelligence in the contact center, and that's why we brought in an expert on the topic for you, Tim McLain from Think. That's Think with a Q, not a K. So welcome to the show, Tim.
Bruce, thanks for having me on.
Okay, great. Well, so a quick introduction before we dive in. Tim is a passionate technologist at heart with more than 25 years of marketing experience, and he's been dedicated to spreading the word on cloud-based systems. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's helped bring 4 internet startups to life since 1993, and he spent several years as a newspaper reporter and TV news producer and has enjoyed marketing management stints at ProQuest and NetCertive. He holds a BS in telecommunication from Kutztown University in Pennsylvania and makes his home with wife Debbie and son William in North Carolina, where he's an avid bike rider and craft beer drinker, which, Tim, I think it's just a great combination. I understand that if you do enough of both of those things, you'll just have incredible insights into AI. Of course, depending on which order you do them in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to be careful.
Got to be careful. So, Tim, anyway, you say that we're already living in an AI economy. Could you give our audience some examples of what you mean?
Yeah, Bruce, it's pretty incredible how artificial intelligence is really impacting all of our lives. And it's very much hidden from view. There's some things that we take for granted, and there's some new technologies that are in front of us. Some of them are available today. Some of them are going to be available very soon, that are all powered by artificial intelligence and kind of a flavor of AI called machine learning. So just to give you an example, for instance, we all have seen these self-driving trucks and cars. You know, the biggest brand name out there is Tesla, right? So really the dream of a Tesla is you can sit in that car, it will read your calendar, it will say, hey, Tim's sitting in the driver's seat, he has a meeting in 15 minutes at CallTalk headquarters, and literally it will turn itself on, it will start navigating, and you'll just sit there and be able to do work, and it will do all the heavy lifting using all of the sensors that are built into that car. So it already knows from the map application how to get there, but then there's all these sensors detecting people and cars in front of it, whether there's a red light, a green light. We've all seen these things. And not all of that's available today, but most of it is. So if you bought a new Tesla and you paid the extra $6,000 for the self-driving package, it would be able to do almost all of that for you right now today. Another example of AI out there is robotic surgery. So that is tapping into sort of connecting remote locations over the cloud and then using robotics and some flavors of artificial intelligence to do some very minute movements of these instruments to actually do robotic surgery. It's fascinating. It's changed tremendously in the last 3 years. And I think another one that we've seen is our chatbots as well. And as a marketer, I've set up multiple flavors of chatbots over the years. And just in the last, 2 or 3, these chatbots have become very intelligent, not in and of themselves. This is not Skynet, right? This is being able to feed data, right, to a machine, to a computer, to make it smart. So over time, as things change, as people's interactions with that chatbot change and the options that they're able to make and how they're routed, and are they rating it successfully? Is there enough sediment that what it's doing is good? It just gets better over time. And again, that's the machine learning that can actually, artificially change it. I mean, we've all gone to websites lately and those chatbots pop up. And I'll tell you what, I literally just paid, here in North Carolina, kudos to them. They just set up a chatbot to help you do just about anything at their DMV. And it's like having a chat window instead of having to talk to a person, because we all know we don't want to have to go to the DMV, right? But that is powered by a flavor of AI called machine learning. And last but not least, guys, is smart robotics. So go look up Boston Dynamics and look at that little yellow sort of dog robot that can be programmed to do certain tasks. And again, that's a flavor of AI called machine learning. And it can actually, it works on construction sites. It can actually be a bomb sniffing type, literally a dog. AI is really, it's in a lot of places, and it's really impacting a lot of different sectors.
It's huge, yeah. That's fascinating, those examples that you just gave us. One of the things, Tim, you say is that one of the ways AI has made our lives easier is speech recognition, which wraps into what you're talking about. So tell us about that, and then relate it to the contact center world that our audience deals with every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruce, I don't know how old you are. I'm not going to ask you. That'd be rude. But I'm about to crack the big 5-0. Okay, so I was kind of lucky enough to really get into the workforce back in '93, right? Which is coincidentally the first year that the first web browser came out. But some other things that were going on back in '93 and '94 was, I think all of us may remember the Apple Newton, right? It was kind of a luxury Palm Pilot,
Yep.
And the thing about the Newton that people loved was here you had this little handheld unit that you could actually, scribble on it with a stylus, and it would try to interpret your handwriting. And I say try because it didn't do a fantastic job. But they were updating that software constantly and repetitively to make it better. It was kind of a laughing stock back then. But it did get better, but it took a long time. It never really fully came into its own. And what I like to say is, and again, that was, again, the early 90s, what it was really missing was two things. It was missing artificial intelligence, and it was missing the cloud. Because if we take the Newton and put it aside, what did the Newton get replaced with? Well, it was an iPhone, right? And what does the iPhone do really, really well today? It does almost perfect speech recognition, right? So instead of typing on that piece of glass with my fat thumbs, I should say, not yours, you can actually not have to do that anymore. You can just talk into it, and really, so that feature was added to the iPhone right after the iPhone 4 came out in 2011. And guess what? It was also pretty terrible right out of the gate. But what happened? In the meantime, as we all know, Apple has opened up tons of different data centers around the country. And as people use that application, as they have been using it, just like the Amazon Alexa, through the magic of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the cloud, it's been gathering massive amounts of data of people talking and it figuring out how to interpret that into actual text. So the longer that it's being used, the more data that's available, the really cheap storage that's available in the cloud, the better it's gotten. And that's really how machine learning, has made that better. And now it's really come into the contact center, and thanks to the cloud, our IVRs and our technology that we're using to power our contact centers are also getting smarter, every day.
Wow. Okay. I want to get to that in a moment. But first, Tim, what are you hearing from contact centers in recent weeks with the coronavirus pandemic? What are the biggest challenges they're facing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I tell you, as soon as, mid-March came around and a lot of people pulled up stakes and went home, turned on their VPNs, right, sent their contact center people, a lot of them home. Not all of them are home. A lot of them had to stay sort of socially distant in the office. It just depends on the company. But as soon as that happened, we started to hear from people who were really having trouble with scaling to meet demand, right? And, especially with VPN traffic. This is all the cloud. This is all in the internet. So suddenly we went from having really nice fat internet pipes to the cloud, at our office buildings, and now we distributed that workforce at home. So, scaling to meet demand was probably the first thing that we started to hear about. But then next, very quickly after that, we heard about latency issues, poor audio quality. And we find actually through our technology that call completion rates are down below 10%, for some of our partners. And it's because of these latency issues and these demand issues. So really kind of the solution that folks are looking for was a smarter solution to their current carrier. Most contact centers have one, and if they're lucky, they have a second carrier that they can fail over to. But
right.
because costs are also a big deal and retaining staff is key, I wanted to say too that, we've all heard about these paycheck protection loans. These PPP loans have gone out to a lot of companies, but contact center firms in particular are really looking at that bottom line, right? They're always trying to make their cost of goods go down. So I think in the contact center, scale is an issue, latency is an issue. They're trying to save money to make sure that they can keep operating, right? Keep as much staff as they can. And they want to add additional carriers, to keep their call quality up. And again, this is really where, it all circles back to artificial intelligence.
Right, absolutely. So review for us the ways artificial intelligence has really made its way into the contact center to address some of these things that you're talking about.
Yeah, so there's a few ways that AI and machine learning, right, these types of technologies have made their way into the contact center. So the first thing is we've all heard of IVRs, right, interactive voice response technologies. They've been around a long time. And those technologies feel pretty intelligent to our customers. So we know that this is basically, a piece of technology that's programmed to behave in a certain way to provide, call trees and other services to our end users, right? But machine learning in the cloud, are also a new and important part of sort of the modern technology stack for contact centers. So the first way that we're seeing it impact things is with faster call resolution. So with AI, calls to the contact center, they could be answered, at any time. Many of these, especially if they're simple problems, are starting to be handled or are handled on the very first try. So that call resolution is faster. So call resolution made smarter. The next is, better quality resolution. So, our customers can use these tools to get faster answers, but also have a much better chance of getting their problems addressed, on that first call. So, first call resolution, as you guys know, has always been the gold standard, and artificial intelligence, really kind of goes out of its way in its use to make sure that the odds of that happening actually, occur as often as possible. And also,
you can think that really makes sense, Tim. I was just thinking because when you have a situation in which, you have the human element oftentimes turns over reasonably quickly in call centers, and so you have to have retraining, and therefore there isn't the same consistency that you can get with an AI machine learning type of situation. The consistency of response for those kinds of questions can be a lot better. And therefore, as you say, the resolution can be faster and better quality.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, we know we can always take automation too far. Not everybody likes to talk to a machine or punch through a series of prompts. But now, as you know, anybody who's used an IVR lately, mostly voice-enabled, when it's done really well and correctly, not only does it lead to that first call resolution, but it also just makes the experience better, for the end user. So, Bruce, I was going to say, too, another really important element of this is cost saving. So, if you can have a higher quality automated system on hand, customers can place their calls at any time of the day or night, even without the contact center needing to be staffed, because, again, that IVR is doing the heavy lifting and getting the answers that they need. So one of the ways that some contact centers have saved money is that, there's no more need to pay a premium for third shift contact center help, and even for such help at all with artificial intelligence, better able to handle, the basics. You're never going to be able to replace people, but you can still resolve those calls better. But I want to say this, Bruce, I want to transition to, artificial intelligence, all those things are great. It has not gotten down to sort of the voice carrier level until very recently. So, you think about an intelligence system, right, that lives in the cloud on the internet. So one of the things that this new technology allows you to do is just make a very simple code change to that IVR, no matter what software or platform is powering it. We all know the big guys out there. What can happen is that as soon as a call, comes into the center or leaves the center, this intelligence, again, powered by machine learning, can see, where the call is coming from and where it's going to, which of course is the most important thing. The technology can look across multiple voice carriers, not just one, all at the same time. It can look to see if, for instance, let's just talk about an outbound call, right? So your contact center is making an outbound call to an end user. So the system knows, obviously where it's coming from, which is the contact center, but also where is it going? Let's say it's going to California, going from New York to California. So the first thing it does is it's going to look across a whole bunch of carriers between the East Coast and the West Coast. It's going to see who has an outage, who's having a known quality issue. It's going to avoid them, and it's going to determine the best route across multiple carriers to deliver the highest, call quality at the best price, and then it's going to send it on its way. And by the way, that takes about 1 to 2/10 of a second, right, to do that, this technology. And
wow.
What's great is that, it's actually updated, every week or two, depending on how the carriers, when they release their price books, with what are the costs for all those millions of routes between the East and the West Coast, which one is the highest quality at the least possible cost. So again, a lot of people on this listening now may have heard of, least cost routing systems or LCRs in the past, but LCRs have really matured in the last 3 to 4 years. And again, it's because they're using this machine learning and AI into something, I really like to call them best route platforms, because again, it's doing that lookup, it's sending that call off and making sure that a carrier picks it up, completes it, more often than average at the best possible price, again, using machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Well, it sounds fascinating, Tim, and it sounds complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can understand it. It does sound complicated. Like, as you can tell at the intro, I've helped bring a couple startups to life. I love the technical side of things, but the marketer in me is always trying to boil it down. So really, what I say is the great thing about these new contact center artificial intelligence technologies is you don't have to think about them. You literally just make a single line of change, right? It's in your code for the system that you have now. It's called an API. A lot of you on the call have probably heard of an API. It's basically a very simple programming language that allows you to add this technology to any existing contact center. And, your rep is going to auto-dial numbers, and the technology really does the rest without any intervention. They don't even need to know that it's there. So instead of it going out through one carrier, like I said earlier, how most contact centers work today, when somebody hits that button to start a call, it actually kicks off an entire sequence of looking it up, which route, best price, best quality. Then it sends the call on the way, and it sounds no different to your rep. But when you get that bill at the end of the month, for instance, that's really where you're going to see the difference. And people save a lot of money this way. And they're actually able to open up, 10, 20, 30 additional carriers without having to negotiate with them, and just have it automatically be routed across the highest quality folks. So it's really kind of a win-win-win across the board. You get some great new technology. It's smarter. The calls sound better. They're completed more often, and you save money.
Okay, so it sounds like the more calls that are routed through the technology, the smarter it becomes. Do you want to say just a few more words about that technology for those of our listeners who perhaps aren't as familiar with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I like to say is it's kind of interesting. It's like, think about a Tesla, back to that auto driving example. If it was just going to drive you between your home and your work, after about day 2, the Tesla doesn't have, if I was a machine, I'd be kind of bored, right? Because I'm only going from one place to another all the time. There's not a lot of intelligence that's going to make that happen. But it's the same thing with this new technology, in the cloud for contact centers. The broader your call dispersal pattern, a lot of contact centers are calling, 20, 30 states in a day, sometimes more often than not. But what's great about this machine learning technology is the broader your call dispersal pattern, the more calls you're making to a more varied set of destinations, really the smarter that it gets. Because it basically can learn, it's basically it's on a daily basis, but it's really on a 30-day rotating basis where, it just gets smarter and smarter and looks back at your last month and says, okay, we called all these different locations. How has the price book changed for these? What other carriers potentially are available? They can be swapped in and swapped out. And again, it's all automatic, and it just leads to all the outcomes that I already mentioned. So really, and I wanted to say too that really there are 2 primary benefits to the technology, right? Is number one is that you have lots of carriers en route instead of just 1 or 2. So you don't have outages anymore, because if your primary is gone, it can do automatic, recovery, mitigation over to another carrier or two until it can actually get that call completed. So your call completion rate goes way up, and you don't have downtime anymore. And the second thing is interesting, Bruce, is I mentioned at the top of the show with COVID that scaling is an issue. But the great thing is with this technology, you can get more calls per second and scale without having to add any really expensive hardware or even software, really. Because, again, this is in the cloud. Just like trying to learn how we speak and turning that into speech, this technology can actually, send more calls per second and, find those best possible routes. And you really kind of get, like I said, it really is a win-win-win for your contact center.
Right. Those are, really good insights. And I do know that there were people who sort of right after the lockdown were asking me, well, does this mean our call volumes are going to tank? And it's all about, and of course, it absolutely depended. There were some who had unbelievable spikes that they weren't able to handle at the same time that they were sending people home, and others who, in fact, did have a real dip in their volumes. So it depended on what industry, what companies, what government agencies, all those sorts of things really made a huge difference in terms of how the COVID virus impacted them. Right. These are really good insights, Tim. Thank you so much. We're getting toward the end of our time together. So what I'd like to do is to ask Alan to ask some questions that have come in. Alan, over to you.
Yes, we have a couple questions here. The first one is from William. He's asking, you said these platforms make calls smarter. What are the data points that this technology uses to make calls smarter?
Yeah, it's a great question. So kind of back to my previous answer is that the secret kind of lies in your call data, right? So when you're setting up a call, it's looking at the to and the from. So let's just start with, one of the great things about the technology is we can actually sort of use it to look through your last 30 days of phone calls, right? And time machine for your last invoice. So the question that we ask it is, look, what if this machine learning powered platform had smartly routed your calls? And the three data points that really make your calls smarter are where the call originates from, right, the from number, where the call terminates, which is the to number, and then the length of the call itself. That's really all the data, that we need. So all this data is found inside something called a call detail record, or a CDR. And the data is entirely confidential. And what can be done with it is we can actually send that data through some algorithms, through those algorithms to see the best route for every call, to ensure the high quality when they're delivered through the carrier set that's available and at the best price. So what's great about all this is what comes out is a very detailed map of how the calls would have been routed and what you would have saved. It's very transparent data. So again, it's where it's going to, where it's coming from, and the length of the call. That's really where the intelligence lies for the machine learning to key on those things and be able to spit back to you, hey, if we had made that call, right, using the price books we have today and the from and the to, how much could you have saved? And also, of course, had that better delivery that we all want and scale.
Yeah, I think that's the part that a lot of people sometimes have trouble getting their arms around, and I think you've described it really well, Tim, and that is with the automated learning, if you will. It's one thing to say, okay, I can understand if there's more information that's put in, but where does the system get slapped down? In other words, how does it learn by making mistakes? And how are those mistakes recognized and then sort of churned into the system so that they, in fact, make things better going forward? And I think you described it pretty well. Are there a few more words that you'd like to say on that specific thing to help people conceptually understand how this works?
Yeah, no, Bruce, that's a great question. So it's kind of, think of it this way. So those who are very highly technical, I'm about to talk about a SIP ladder. But basically, inside of our, or these tools that are available, you're able to actually look at, the entirety of how the technology is trying to set up and get a call delivered, right? So if the technology picks up and tries to make the call and it sees what the route is and it tries to route the call and it fails for some reason, it instantly will do a retry, find the next best possible carrier, and try again. And what's great is with this technology, you get to control which carriers get to make those tries in the first place. If there's an outage, they're automatically removed from the sequence so that, the deliveries on the first try will happen a lot more often. And lastly, and we all know this, guys. You suddenly see an alert that level 3 or it could be any of the big carriers have outages every day. You can actually manually go in and tell the system to stop routing calls, through California on level 3 for the next 7 days to route around a known outage, right? Just to get it may only be out for a couple hours, but you can safely, have it pause for up to 30 days at a time. Really, that's great about this software, this technology in the cloud, is that you have full control. Very simple, but a lot of that rerouting is done automatically on the back end based on the data that's available to the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's an incredible amount of power, but also flexibility that those systems can offer you. Great. Okay, Alan, do you have another question there?
Yes, we do. We got one from Alex. He's asking, our operation has centers in 3 different countries, and we move calls among them. Does this sort of technology support this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know a lot of contact centers want to move their calls between, physical locations, especially if they're global. And that's actually called follow the sun. So most IVRs, most systems actually handle that. And the good news is so does this technology. So when you have this many carriers, especially at the international level as well, you can set your own custom timetable for moving calls and DID traffic, phone number traffic, between centers with the technology so that literally at a given time, the calls will just start to be routed to that additional contact center. And it all happens in the back end, and it's all completely programmable. Yeah, that's called follow the sun.
Perfect. And I think we got one more question here from Sharon. And Sharon's asking, what recommendations do you have for how to pick a better route platform?
Yeah, that's great. And again, that's really my term for, these sort of advanced least cost routing platforms. And, really the question is, how do you pick? So really, it's kind of important. You kind of take a breath and realize that, most contact centers today, high volume centers, are powered by the cloud. And they're using SIP trunking and hosted PBX for the most part. And that's really the key to interconnecting with these better route platforms, SIP trunking and hosted PBX. And what you want to look for is, a system that has great carrier choice, right? One that has, 30, 40 carriers, international and toll-free, all built into the platform at the same time. The next thing you want to look for is the ability to turn carriers on and off, to do these custom route blocks and enablements. And you want to be able to do this not just network-wide, but also down to the area code and at the rate center level. And you need to be able to do that without filing a ticket. You want to be able to do it in real time, or as close to real time as you can, and that's available in the newer systems. Next is, an easy API with hands-on support. You want to work with folks that have really good support teams who actually pick up the phone and help you get this set up and running. It literally takes usually just a couple minutes to set up the best ones and add the code to your existing system. And you can start routing calls intelligently, literally the same day that you find one of these systems that you like. Of course, you also want to be paying attention to interoperability. We've all heard of Twilio, Nexmo, Plivo, even SignalWire. These are all just well-known industry, leaders, and these systems can interop with them. So, for instance, we have a lot of Twilio folks that love to use these systems. You just make one code change in about 60 seconds, and you can start routing your calls. And you also only want one bill to pay. You don't want to have to sign agreements with these 30 or 40 carriers. Nobody wants to do that. But you want to be able to pay one bill, and it should be less because you're finding these best routes at the best possible price and the highest quality. So you could just write one check and take care of it and save, 30, 40, 50%. Just depends on the system. And you also want to ask whoever you're going to look at for this kind of a system, how often do they update their price books to keep their machine learning, refreshed? How do they handle fraud protection? And also ask them about their investment in making their systems smarter over time. All good questions to ask.
Okay. Very good. No, I wouldn't have anything to add to that. I think that, when we're thinking about these systems in general, then quality, cost, and administrative ease all come into the picture here. And sometimes we in the call center don't realize what the back office has to go through in order to support us. And we expect everyone else in the organization, rightly so, to be sensitive to our needs, and we should be thinking about their needs as well. and trying to make things as simple as possible, because nobody needs more bureaucracy in their lives. That includes our own back offices. So, bring together the quality, the cost, the admin can be really positive things in terms of the operating efficiency of our organization. So these are great insights, Tim. Thanks so much. We're going to have to close off, but before we do, let me just offer the mic back to you for a second if you have any closing words for us.
Yeah, I'd have to say that, it's easy to just realize that, our system is currently running today. It's doing fine. We're kind of used to that voice bill and, everything's great. But I really challenge you to kind of get out of your comfort zone and take a look at these machine learning powered least cost routing platforms, these best route platforms, as I call them. There's great new technology that allows you to route calls more efficiently, really help you guys save on your bottom line. And especially in this day and age, we kicked off the show talking about coronavirus, COVID-19. It's going to be important to your CFO and your CEO that you guys in every department find ways to cut your cost of goods sold. One way to do that is take a look at these platforms, unlock a whole bunch of additional carriers, save a significant amount of money that you can put back into your business, because we all want to see everybody come back to work and stay employed, and also, really make it through this tough time. So it's really a good time to be looking. The technology is there, and I challenge everybody, go out there and take a look and, see if it can help you.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Tim. Great words. And with that, I'd like to just wish all of our listeners a great month. Stay healthy, be well, and thank you very much for listening with us. With that, I'll turn things over to Alan Potcotter to close things up.
Thanks again to Tim and to Bruce for your insightful discussion on today's show. Be sure to join us next month for another great show, or look at our huge selection of archived hot topics at benchmarkportal.com. Then click on CallTalk, where you'll find over 11 seasons. From all of us at Benchmark Portal, keep those headsets steady and your fingers ready. This is Alan Potcotter signing out. Have a great day.